Hi, hello, I'm Louise Quick, this is Quick Histories, and grab your sparklers because this week marks Bonfire Night, which inevitably means that pets everywhere will be cowering in fear as fireworks are set off across the country. The rhyme goes, remember, remember, the 5th of November, but what or who exactly are we meant to be remembering? This week we're going to look at the history of Bonfire Night, and more specifically, why perhaps Guy Fawkes isn't the person we should be remembering this time of year. So yeah, let's check it out. We all know Guy Fawkes, or rather we know the name Guy Fawkes, not him personally, and most of us will know the story of the gunpowder plot, which was the failed attempt to assassinate King James I in 1605. But Guy Fawkes wasn't actually the ringleader of this plot at all. For those that don't know, Bonfire Night, Guy Fawkes Night, Fireworks Night, Gunpowder Plot Day, whatever you call it, it's a day on the 5th of November where in Britain we have bonfires, we have fireworks, and occasionally we burn effigies of Guy Fawkes, called the Guy. But who is Guy Fawkes, and why is it a tradition to throw an effigy of his body on a bonfire every year? Fawkes was a man, as many people are, and he was born in York. He was a devout Catholic, and eventually he trained to become a soldier. In fact, he was such a devout Catholic that he actually spent most of his 20s over in mainland Europe fighting for Spain against the Dutch Protestants. He managed to gain himself a small reputation as not only devout Catholic and a good soldier, but also someone who was loyal and conveniently good with explosives. Now, it was in 1604 in what is modern-day Belgium that Fawkes, he was just hanging out, he was recruited by an English Catholic radical called Thomas Winter. Now, Thomas Winter was acting on the guidance of Robert Catesby. Robert Catesby is the name we should know. That's the name that should be better known than Guy Fawkes. For Robert Catesby was the leader of a small group of English Catholic radicals who wanted to cause a rebellion and get rid of the Protestant monarchy in England. By the time Fawkes was recruited into this pack of English radicals, not sure if that's the technical term, plans were, if not already underway, but had definitely been formulated. In fact, Fawkes wasn't filled in on the details until he was back in England, and as we know, the details of the plan were to blow up Parliament with the King inside and restore England to Catholic rule. Now, to understand this a little bit more, you know what we need? We need some good old historical context. Robert Catesby and his men were Catholic radicals in what was now a Protestant England. This is all thanks to our good old mate Henry VIII, who had set in motion the English Reformation about 70 years before. The English Reformation essentially saw the official religion of England go from Catholicism to Protestantism, and in doing so, they triggered a lot of problems and tensions between Catholics and Protestants for the next forever. If you were a Catholic in England at this time, you were having a bit of a rough time. You couldn't practice your faith publicly, you often were fined, there was the risk of imprisonment, just not a good time. Back in 1604, Robert Catesby and his other conspirators, including Guy Fawkes, had moved to London, and Guy Fawkes took on the pseudonym of John Johnson, which really doesn't feel that original in terms of a fake name. It feels like someone said, "What's your fake name, Guy Fawkes?" And he went, John McJohnson Face Johnson? Anyway, the original plan, apparently, was actually to dig a tunnel underneath the Palace of Westminster and blow up the explosives from there. However, they then realised that they could actually just rent a vault under Parliament. This was something you could do. You could just rent a storage space under the Palace of Westminster. So that's what they did. They rented this storage space under the Palace of Westminster, filled it with explosives, and their plan was to blow up Parliament, the King, and everyone else in it. The date was finally set for the 5th of November 1605. This was going to be the state opening of Parliament, so they knew that the King and lots of other important people would be there. So everything was set. The King was going to be there, the explosives were in place, Guy Fawkes was down there because that was his area of expertise. But then at the last minute they were betrayed. A letter had been sent to one of the lords warning them of this possible attack. A search went out and the vault full of explosives were discovered, along with Guy Fawkes, who I always just imagine was there literally with like a match in hand, like ooh, but I think it was maybe not quite as comedic as that. Fawkes was then arrested and taken to the Tower of London, where he was questioned and tortured. Meanwhile, the mastermind of this plan, Robert Catesby, and the other conspirators fled. They went up north, one, to run away, but also to incite a Catholic rebellion against James I. Unfortunately, or rather unsurprisingly, this failed, and a few days later, Robert Catesby was shot dead by the authorities. All the while, Guy Fawkes is down in London being tortured until he finally gave a confession. Then in January 1606, he was charged with high treason and then executed by being hanged, drawn and quartered. So how did all of this become Bonfire Night? In the years following the gunpowder plot, on the 5th of November every year, people were encouraged to light bonfires and listen to sermons in celebration of James I's close call with death. It's as if he wanted it to be known that it was divine intervention that had saved him. Through the 17th century and into the 18th century, conflicts and tensions between Protestants and Catholics only grew, as well as a very strong anti-Catholic feeling. As these tensions grew, so too did the tradition for commemorating and remembering the failed gunpowder plot. And this all sort of manifested and became Bonfire Night and Fireworks Night. It does seem very strange though that in commemorating Parliament not being blown up, we have a large fire and blow stuff up. Fortunately, nowadays it's lost its religious roots and it's not a religious event or celebration. Burning the Guy is still quite strange though. I'm not sure how often this still really happens. And really, if they should be, if any effigy should be being burnt, it should be of Robert Catesby. But maybe we just don't need an effigy, you know? Maybe the fireworks and the bonfire is enough, some would say, because it's quite dark. Anyway. There we go, that's my Bonfire Night fact for you. The fact that maybe we shouldn't be calling it Guy Fawkes Night, maybe we should be calling it Robert Catesby Night. If you like this fact, please give it a thumbs up and a like, and you can show your love by buying me a coffee on my Ko-fi page. It's ko-fi.com/quickhistories. Any contributions you make are hugely appreciated. Thank you so much to everyone that already has. Otherwise, I'm off to buy some sparklers and toffee apples so that I can put on a lockdown fireworks night for 2020. History fact.